Kshama Sawant is the real deal. She's a city council member from Seattle. She led the fight for $15 minimum wage. And here she is from Democracy Now! Debating Rebecca Tracer about voting for Hillary Clinton. And if you look at the first video, she laid it out what's wrong with the Democrats and what's wrong with Hillary Clinton and how she can't support her. But right now she's going to get that. She's going to get pushback right now, and let's listen to the conventional BS wisdom about why this woman of color is supposed to support the Democratic Party that's in bed with Wall Street and frackers and diametrically opposed to workers. Let's hear what she says.
We absolutely need to move those activists into politics and up the pipeline, but we also can't fool ourselves that the individual questions of who's going to win the presidency in November are meaningless. They're going to carry meaning and weight and realities for millions of Americans.
So she's dismissing everything Kwame, how do you say her name?
Kshama Sawant.
Kshama Sawant said. She's dismissing it. Yeah, all that stuff's important. Yes, Hillary is in bed with Wall Street. Yes, she is spreading fracking around the world. Yes, she should have stood up for welfare mothers instead of not standing up for them while they gutted it. Yes, she should have done all this stuff. She just dismissed it. Yeah. But Trump, that's what this is.
But those of us who are talking about building an independent party for the 99%, we take the...
So she's talking about building another party. She's like, this Democratic Party doesn't represent us. Doesn't represent us.
Doesn't represent me.
Doesn't represent me.
Question of the presidential elections absolutely seriously. I am not saying that it is meaningless, but here's the question I would like to ask. If the Democratic Party establishment, the Democratic National Committee had at its first priority to defeat Trump, I have no doubt that they want to defeat Trump. But if that was their topmost priority, then why did they not do everything in their power to promote the one candidate who, through many, many polls, was indicated to have been a really prominent, a very powerful voice against Trump and having the real possibility of winning against Trump? And obviously, I'm talking about Bernie Sanders. Instead, what the Democratic National Committee has done is use every dirty trick in the book to stymie his campaign. And the reason Bernie did not succeed in winning the Democratic nomination is not because the Democratic base didn't support him. I mean, he has electrified an entire base of tens of millions of people. The reason he didn't win the nomination is not because of recalcitrant Congress, it's because of a recalcitrant Democratic Party establishment for whom, although defeating Trump is the priority, a bigger priority for the Democratic Party establishment is to defeat the agenda of working people, to really fight for the massive social change, because the interests of ordinary working people and the interests of Wall Street are diametrically opposite. The interests of Wall Street are completely antagonistic to the interests of ordinary working people. So as long as we tie ourselves, forget about individuals, as long as we tie ourselves to a party that is tied to Wall Street, our movements will reach a graveyard in the Democratic Party.
And she's got nothing to say back to that, by the way. Not a goddamn thing. She's sitting there going, please throw to a break. And they do. Because she's got nothing to say. Nothing. But Trump. The Democratic Party has nothing to offer her. Her movement will find a graveyard inside the Democratic Party. When she had to fight for the $15 minimum wage in Seattle, she had to fight against the Democratic Party. She says that earlier in the interview. I had to fight against the Democratic Party. Democratic Party's not on my side. Democratic Party's on Wall Street side, and the military-industrial complex side, and the fracker side, and big oil side. They're not on our side. This whole thing, we got to stop Trump. I have a movement. That's what she's saying. I'm trying to get a party that represents workers. And she's just going, no, just vote for Hillary. You know, it's one thing to say vote for Hillary because I'm afraid of Trump. And it's another thing to say vote for Hillary and then not do a goddamn thing to try to make sure Hillary is a better frickin' candidate. Oh, you got to vote for Hillary even though she's horrible? How about you say, hey, Hillary, why don't you stop being horrible and more people will vote for you? Why don't people say that? Why are people wagging their finger at me and her and Jill Stein and anybody else who isn't on board Hillary Clinton's corporate takeover of our country. Why don't you wag your finger at Hillary and say, hey, why don't you go get their votes? But that's not what she does. That's not what people like Rebecca Traitor does. She doesn't say, hey, Hillary, why don't you go get their votes? No, she wags her finger at them saying Trump, 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 which is backwards. You have it absolutely backwards. And that's why the left is they're becoming just like the right-wing media, making excuses for corruption. And that's not what we're supposed to do. That's why we're supposed to be different. But Hillary Clinton is making hypocrites out of people like this. Instead of wagging her finger at Hillary Clinton and saying, why are you so horrible? Why did you pick Tim Kaine? Why would you pick a guy who's to the right of you? Did you see what the base was doing this year? They're going nuts. 30,000 people at a clip showing up to hear a guy who's anti-establishment. No, that's not what they do. They wag their finger at people like me and people like her and say, but Trump, but Trump. What an intellectually lazy position. So lazy. You're going to back a party that was, and it's exactly what she said. She said their number one priority was defeating the agenda of working people. They weren't like, hey, we have to defeat Trump, so let's go with Bernie. They were like, no, because if we go with Bernie, he's going to be on the side of workers. So let's get Hillary, and then let's try to win with Hillary. That's exactly what they did. And she's saying, that's not my party. You can't make me vote. I'm not supporting that crap. You support that all you want. I'm going to be working for a better America. And if Hillary Clinton wants my vote, she better come get it. And if she doesn't come get it, she won't get it. Because it's about my movement. The Democratic Party is a graveyard for my movement. And Rebecca Traig's got nothing to say back. And I'm not picking on her. She just happens to be the person. She represents the establishment. She represents all those people in the lefty media who are throwing away all their integrity and credibility to support the antithesis of a liberal and a progressive, and to then now defend corruption instead of exposing it. So it's a sad thing what Hillary Clinton has done to the left. It is a sad thing. And for whatever reason, you got on board with her, even though and instead of Bernie Sanders, the real lefty. She literally wrote a column, Rebecca, saying that Bernie's calls for revolution is sexist because a woman could never call for a revolution. That's the kind of crap that Hillary Clinton has led the left to writing. That kind of stuff. And I'm sure she's a fine person and all that stuff, but this woman here has got the right idea. And she's got no problem shutting her down. And she doesn't even have to say anything to her. All she has to do is state her case. Oh, so there you go. And now we see, the lies about her health. We'll see what happens. But don't expect people like that to ever stop apologizing for corruption from Hillary Clinton. What happens when she becomes president? She hasn't given a press conference. This is before. What happens when she becomes president? Does the lefty media continue to excuse her corruption? Anyway, I say it's the lefty media's responsibility to be consistent and to call Hillary Clinton out for her right-wingness, her embedness with Wall Street, with frackers, with the military-industrial complex, with Big Pharma. It's your job to call that out and make her a better candidate. When you excuse it, it makes less people want to come out and vote for her, which is why she's neck and neck with Trump. Try to make her a better candidate. That's my message to the lefty media. Try to hold Hillary's feet to the fire before the election so she becomes a better candidate, so maybe somebody's actually motivated to vote for her.